Hey, look who stopped by Zoom tonight, the Melody Lane Crafting Zoom room. It's Jamie Leonard, and she's showing us how to use the Spellbinders system of foiling. And Jamie, I'll let you explain.
Okay, so this is the Spellbinders Glimmer Machine. You use foils with it that are heat activated. You can also use the Cricut foils and the foils from Foil Quill, as well as Spellbinders foil and some of the Couture Creations foils. There's quite a few. Just make sure they're hot foils and not toner foils. So the basics are you just plug in the machine and you let it heat up until your red and your green light are on. And then you place your foil plates
And you
where
said
you want them.
you marked that for a A2 size
I
card.
did. So I used a fine point black Sharpie marker to mark my whole thing where an A2 goes. So it's kind of in the center, and then I marked lines off to the side. Because once you set the foil down, you can't see what you're doing.
All right.
Make sure I don't get this wrong side up. And this plate right here is actually a Spellbinders Better Press plate. It's meant for the letterpress system, but you can use those on the foil press system as well. Okay, so you set your plates down, center it as best you can, and then you lay your foil on top, pretty side down, so you're looking at the dull side. And then you grab whichever cardstock you're going to use.
What kind of cardstock are you using there?
This one is a card insert from one of the Cricut insert kits. Let me close that before my card curls. Once you get those all placed in there, you hit this little timer button and wait for this light to stop flashing. This one is a cutaway card set from Cricut. I just really love the holographic on this one.
Uh-huh.
Once our minute is up, then we'll take this whole thing out and run it through either a Spellbinders Platinum machine or a Cricut Cuttlebug machine or even a Big Shot. And it will also work on the Vagabond from Tim Holtz. I'm not quite sure about any of the other electrics. I know for a fact it does not work on the Anna Griffin machine or the Gemini.
And that probably has to do with the thickness of the plates, right?
Yeah, so the Spellbinders machines and the Big Shot machines all have a base plate like this one.
Uh-huh.
It's really thick. These are about the same thickness as the old steel rule dies that we all used to have.
Yeah.
And that's where this machine size is based off of, is this plate. So if you have a machine that doesn't have a big base plate like this, this will not work.
Oh, that'll probably keep it from curling your top plate, right?
I
Or
would think so, because you're not really cutting anything, so you're not putting that kind of pressure on it. Oh, it's ready. Okay, once your light is solid and no longer flashing, you want to pull this tray off carefully, trying not to move your parts. And then you're just going to run it right through your machine and go slow. The slower you go, the better chance you have getting a really good coverage on the foil.
and is it hard to roll it through?
No, it rolls through really easy. Like you can kind of feel that there's hardly any pressure on it. You should only have to go through once, but I kind of want to go through twice because I want to make sure this attaches well. You're going to want to be careful. This plate gets to almost 200 degrees, so you will burn yourself if you're not careful.
Mm.
And then you can use the tool that came with it to move the plates off to the side.
And that great thing you put the plates on, that came with the machine too?
Yes, it did. Okay, and then
Oh my gosh,
isn't that pretty?
that's gorgeous.
That is
I'm sorry.
beautiful.
And depending on the thickness of the cardstock, you can actually feel how it debossed the paper and pushed the foil into what the debossing did.
And you've been in here for a little while and you did the uh, negative side of that paper too. Do you want
I
to
did. Okay, so
do that?
actually, I'm going to hold on to this one
Yeah.
so that I can do it later. This was the first one I did. This was the actual just foiling the plate. And then I took the leftover foil like this with a solid plate and did the negative, which makes your foils far more cost effective because when you're done, it's all used.
Yeah.
So there's virtually no waste.
That's so cool. Any last minute tips on what you should keep in mind when you're foiling or looking for a foiling machine?
Um, well, keep in mind that they're wicked hot. And the worst, I think probably the biggest tip I have is on the machine itself. This plugs into this base back here on these teeth.
Uh-huh.
And on some of them, those teeth are really tight. So when you go to pull this off, this whole top part just kind of flies off because you had to put force behind it. I took these two plates. There's a light green one that goes on first, and then there's the clear one. I taped these together with Cricut heat tape.
Uh-huh.
And then I also taped myself a hinge with that same tape.
Wow.
So mine is kind of attached.
Genius.
That way, when I'm unplugging it, it can't slide off. It's
Cool.
just kind of stuck there. So my stuff doesn't shift usually.
And I
So
know
the tape wears out.
several really good machines out there, but this particular machine, would you recommend for a beginner, an expert
I absolutely would.
or beginner?
I absolutely would suggest this one for a beginner. There's another one made by Couture Creations called the Go Press and Foil. I would not suggest that one. The the heating part of the plate is a little bit bigger on that one. It's a little bit longer, but the heating is uneven. So when you're doing something like this one where it's a bigger one, you'd find random spots that wouldn't press and they come out looking like crap. So I would not suggest that one. I would suggest sticking with this one.
Cool.
And aside from that little issue of these sliding around and some of these being really tight to pull this off of, I have yet to find a flaw.
Wow.
Everything so far that I've tried to foil has foiled beautifully. And this is the solid plate. This is what I used to do the negative with.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah, I think this one's going to be really pretty too.
Yeah. So you need to get a solid plate if you want to press that negative. You need a plate.
Right. If you want to press that negative, you're going to need one of these solid plates. I personally suggest this one. It comes from Pink Fresh Studios. You can buy it on Amazon. This is their large rectangle. And the reason I suggest this one is because it is, let me grab one so I can show you. It's big enough to do a whole front for an A2 card. It's actually just a little bit bigger than that. The one that Spellbinders has is slightly smaller and won't quite cover a full A2. Spellbinders does have these in shapes though. Like they have a diamond, there's a hexagon, there's a heart. They also have a rectangle and a square. And I think there's a couple more of them. It would be really handy when you have something that's a more solid pattern, like let me see. I don't know if I have any solid pattern ones. I don't have any solid pattern ones. Oh wait, yes I do. Okay, so like this would be a whole card front in snowflakes.
Uh-huh.
This is where using one of those shaped solid plates would come in come in handy, because then you could just do the foil in that specific shape, like a diamond or a heart or a hexagon or whatever. But aside from ones like this, where they're more of a full coverage, I don't think the shaped solid plates would be as useful.
Well, Jamie, I really want to thank you for popping into Zoom tonight, the Melody Lane Crafting Zoom room. For more tips, you can message Jamie or ask on one of the many Melody Lane inspired sites. Thanks, Jamie.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome. That was fun.